welcome to Undaunted, bringing into the news untold stories. I am Star Smart. Let's begin. The pursuit of freedom for the Federal Republic of Ambazonia continues to unfold with striking contrast. On one side stands the unyielding resolve of true liberation fighters, and on the other, a disheartening spectacle of betrayal by individuals who have chosen to align with the colonial regime. These actors, posing as advocates within the corridors of the oppressor, diminish the legitimacy of the struggle by engaging in pitiful theatrics for personal gains. Amidst these betrayals, the reality of Ambazonia's plight remains unchanged. Decades of systemic exploitation, neglect, and brutal military aggression by French Cameroon, La République, have plunged Ambazonian communities into a cycle of despair. The destruction of vital infrastructure, the exploitation of natural resources, and the continuous suppression of human rights only serve as grim reminders of a colonial regime bent on subjugation rather than partnership. Yet the Ambazonian spirit remains steadfast. Genuine freedom fighters have demonstrated remarkable tenacity in their quest for self-determination, challenging the narrative of dependency and demanding the right to chart their own future. These fighters, undeterred by betrayal or external suppression, embody the strength and resilience of a people determined to reclaim their sovereignty. As the struggle for liberation persists, the actions of those who align with the colonial regime are only increasingly seen as desperate attempts to secure relevance in a system that has no intention of recognizing or addressing the rights of Ambazonians. While such betrayals may tarnish the brother cause momentarily, they cannot diminish the determination of a movement that is fueled by justice and the yearning for freedom. So, in the face of betrayal and repression, the Ambazonian struggle serves as a powerful testament to the triumph of determination over subjugation. The journey to freedom may be fraught with challenges, but the unshaken resolve of the people of Ambazonia continues to inspire hope for a brighter future. With that, we'll get the prime headlines to usher us into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. Stay tuned. These are the prime headlines on Undaunted tonight. We see that while Ambazonia faces reoccurring fire incidents, with the most recent one claiming the life of a one-year-old, Atanga only shares colonial priorities to control Ambazonian institutions and organizations. We also see that Bamessing Fund, another conspirator with the colonial regime, sparks outrage for controversial DDR remarks, stirring up warnings from the ANSC. We see that in 2024, the graduation ceremony of University of Bamenda students has been rescheduled due to security situation. And Mbela Moki has been seen displaying the depth of his servitude in La République's parliament, a rather pitiful sight. In Africa, we get to see Ethiopia-Somalia's dispute navigating tensions over Somaliland, and on the global scene, Biden issues 39 presidential pardons and commutes 1,500 sentences. Let's head on into the full briefings of Undaunted tonight. In the face of war, it is interesting to see colonial stooges of La République focus on issues that are of little to no impact and, in some cases, issues with devastating impacts to the lives of Ambazonians. Only recently, we saw Atanga banning 5 NGOs that have long served as lifelines for communities abandoned by the colonial regime. NGOs that have been offering food, medical aid, and support to those most affected by the ongoing war. Well, while we brought yesterday to you the outright defiance by a certain barrister Alice Combe, a prominent human rights defender who runs the organization Red Hack, owing to the irrationality, not to mention the illegality of such demand. The colonial SDO for Wuri has this time locked the office of Red Hack with padlocks and summoned the same defiant barrister Alice for the second time, and this summons is slated for next Monday. But while we were thinking of the extent that La Republic would go to repress and control, banning NGOs that provide aid their colonial regime has refused to provide, while we're thinking of all that, this happens. Take a look.
Cameroon, only the head of state can authorize any church to go operational. So for those who are operating without the decree from the head of state, I'm advising them to close down before I get to them. They should start closing before I get.
Well, as the dust on the banning on some NGOs is still to settle, in-house slave Atanga Paul Atanga has ordered the closure of what he calls unauthorized churches. We see Atanga attacks on churches. The Colonial Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanga, has ordered the closure of what he calls unauthorized churches. He made this unpopular decision on December 10th in a meeting to clarify his decision to ban some non-governmental organizations. The colonial call for the closure of churches has come under criticism and caused the questioning of the priority areas of intervention of the colonial regime of the nonagenarian dictator Paul Buea. The inhabitants of Bamenda, the chief town of the Midland Zone to the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, have been deprived of good roads at the city center, with dust polluting the air from dawn to dusk. The colonial regime, through surrogates like Paul Atanga has been silent on the plight of Ambazonians using these bad roads daily. Now let's go back one more time to listen what is top of his priority amidst the ongoing war, dilapidated roads, and lack of infrastructure in Ambazonia. Let's take a listen at what his priority is amidst all this.
Cameroon, only the head of state can authorize any church to go operational. So for those who are operating without the decree from the head of state, I'm advising them to close down before I get to them. They should start closing before I get.
I'm sure if you listened where you would have heard only the head of state can authorize churches to go operational. How about authorizing the construction and infrastructures? Well, as you heard him, the goal is not to bring order, because that would have first started with pushing for an end to the ongoing war. The goal is to gain control in Ambazonia. In recent times, more than ever, we've seen La Republic focusing on taking control and charge over institutions and organizations in Ambazonia instead of providing the much-needed infrastructure and basic amenities Ambazonia needs, but instead, they haven't. Ambazonia has lacked these under the occupation of the said regime. We see that time and time again. There has been reports on fire incidents, fire accidents everywhere in Ambazonia, from one to another. And until now, not one single emergency unit has been provided in Ambazonia, nor roads for these emergency units, if ever created, to ply on. Reoccurring accidents by road and fire, too many to count. Now, just yesterday, a devastating fire in Mile 16 Buea, chief town in the Atlantic zone of the Federal Republic of Ambazonia, claimed the life of an innocent 1-year-old baby. This incident, amongst many others, is raising urgent questions about the colonial government's neglect of the British Southern Cameroons under the declaration of the war in 2016. If all of these happenings, powered by the colonial regime and its surrogates, are not targeted, strategic, and systemic to annihilate Ambazonians, what are the odds that they all only end up as a disservice to Ambazonians and its people? Well, we're seeing the priorities of the colonial regime through stooges like Atanga and Jupo, and we can't help but wonder, what are the odds? What are the odds if all of these happenings powered by the colonial regime and its surrogates are not targeted, strategic, and systemic to annihilate Ambazonians? What are the odds that they all only end up as a disservice to Ambazonia and its people? Well, we have with us in the studio, as always, Barrister Mbela to help us go through this. We want to ask you, Barrister Mbela, you're welcome, first of all. Good evening and welcome.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Barrister Mbela, we want to ask you, would you agree that these recent targeting of institutions in Ambazonia, would you agree that the institution targeting and organizations going through colonial authorizations, mind you, there is a lot more than what we reported about the NGOs and even this recent of the church. But then would you agree that there is more than meets the eye, like a systemic and strategic agenda to infiltrate and control the Ambazonian society?
I do agree, but I don't think they are targeting only the Ambazonian society now. What Atanga G is doing is purely political. This is the eve of an election year coming next year. They want to have everything in control so that come 2025, the president, his poor Buea, wins the elections at all costs. Because in terms of what he's doing on churches, I don't think his so-called presidential beliefs in churches affect Ambazonia in any form or shape. In Ambazonia, the principal churches we know include the Catholics, the Baptists, the Presbyterians. They have a very large, in fact, they have, if not more than half of the population of Ambazonia. I wonder any of those churches in Ambazonia has anything called presidential decree. And so I think it is an overreach. What is the church in the first place? The church is a place of worship. The church is a gathering of people. It's not necessarily a building. So if you want to organize a worshiping group in your house, call it a church, church of worshipers, the church of the devil, the church of whatever thing you call it. You want to get a tradition from Mr. Tanganji through the president? That's physically impossible. That's not even required. And so his talk of churches, I'm still dealing with churches, has no meaning. Has really no meaning. They just want to cow the population, and of course, cow Anglophones. Because down the road, when we're going to analyze what he's doing to NGOs, Ambazonia will be more concerned.
Barrister Mbela, there's something you said that's of concern to me. You mentioned that, affecting the church doesn't in any way impact Ambazonia. But we've seen controversial figures in religious organizations like Bishop. I don't want to mention him, but we know these people who have rather gone to the side of the colonial regime and urged Ambazonians to join in voting in the upcoming elections and all that. Would you still agree that, the religious organizations doesn't in any way impact the Ambazonian society?
It might, but the important thing is to know is this. Those religious organizations that you and me know, which I've mentioned, the Catholics, the Baptists, the Presbyterians, they are very, very large in numbers. The action of their pastor, call it the moderator, or the bishop, does not affect individual voting patterns. Absolutely not. If that were the case, we're going to come to it. Why is Archbishop Andrew Ankia's opinion not bound the people of Bamenda, including the university? The inhabitants of Bamenda, metropolitan place, are Christians, Catholics, Baptists, Presbyterians, who have talked about no normalcy in those areas. Archbishop Andrew Kia has preached it 10,000 times over, but there's normalcy there. It does not work. Again, the church is always there. In 1990, the CPDM was in Bamenda, 1990. They were campaigning to win elections. Nifrundi was there. The church was there. In spite of all that, Nifrundi won Northwest, Southwest, call it at the time. They won by more than 80%, notwithstanding whatever thing their pastors were talking about, or their bishops. So the Christian church, if they are talking about Christian churches, It's not homogeneous. I've explained here many times before what the Bishop of Amanda, which happens to be called the Archbishop, says. Does not even bind his own Christian. Talk less of binding the Christians of Insop, where there's a bishop there in Kumbo. Talk less of binding the Christians of Mamfe, where there's a bishop sitting there, or Kuma, or Buea. And so it's not homogeneous. What the moderator of the Protestant church says or does takes money or what takes nothing. Does not bind the Christians. That guy who just left is from Akwaya. Akwaya is the most affected area in this revolution. Most of them are in Nigeria. They are followers of the Protestant church. And so what the pastor was doing there, the moderator called it, could have some effect, but very little effect. Because the fact that I'm talking like this, I'm a Christian, I'm a Catholic. I don't think what the bishop says or does binds me in any form or shape. And so they will try. They will try. Because we cannot deny that in the churches, there are some vulnerable people who believe that the word of the pastor is the gospel truth, who believe that the word of the bishop or the priest is God sent. So they will infiltrate to use those opportunities. But Atanga is not doing that for nothing. That's why he's kept there as a minister. Whether he fails to succeed does not affect his income, his social position in society called minister. And so he will continue doing that, even maybe until he goes down by death or by dismissal. And so he will always attempt to do what he's doing. He doesn't even know the churches. He's telling them to close by themselves before he looks for them. So he doesn't even know who's registered or not registered. You can say all that. Bottom line, he's trying to coerce. He's trying to threaten people. To do what? Not to go to church. No, to turn around because the president, he says, is the one who can authorize. And so if you don't vote for this president, it means he will ban your church. It means he will ban your organization. That's the bottom line. Over to you.
Very well said, Barrister Mbela. Well, we're looking at figures like Atanga. It's interesting that he is actually of the Ambazonian origin. But like we've said several times on Undaunted, there are people who were born from Ambazonia but are not of Ambazonia. We see another controversial figure in the person of a fund, the Bamessing fund. In yet another controversial move, we see that fund Richard Mutong III of Bamessing in Ngoketinja County, Ambazonia, has issued a statement that has provoked widespread anger amongst Ambazonian citizens and their leadership. The fund, widely criticized as a collaborator with La République du Cameroon, called on Ambazonian forces to disarm and join the DDR's center, a demobilization initiative often viewed in Ambazonia as an extension of La République's control tactics, as these DDR centers have had the record of involving so-called ex-Amba fighters in these camps to expose the camps of the ASA and use them to kill the same people they once fought side by side with. In a statement released on 11th December 2024, the fund called on Ambazonian fighters to disarm and join the controversial DDR Disarmament, Demobilization and Reintegration Program championed by La République du Cameroon. The move has been condemned as a betrayal of the Ambazonian struggle for freedom. In his communique, the fund threatened to identify and punish community members supporting Ambazonia's self-determination effort. Critics argue that his stance ignores the well-documented atrocities committed by La République forces, including mass killings, talking massacres, village burnings, over 500 already in the count, and rampant sexual violence against Ambazonian civilian population. The statement follows an earlier audio which he made, an audio recording that was leaked, not he made, rather, one that was leaked from a meeting in Tico on the 1st of December 2020, where the FON urged fighters in Bamessing to abandon their cause. Ambazonian leaders have described his actions as treacherous. When that audio leaked just the first day of this month, 2024, they described his actions indeed as treacherous, accusing him of aligning with the CPDM regime for personal gains at the expense of his people. The Ambazonian National Self-Defense Council issued a stern warning to traditional leaders who collaborate with La République. The council emphasized that no one, not even traditional rulers, is above the revolution. According to the ANSC, whoever stands in the way of this God-ordained revolution will be swept aside. The Ambazonian State Army has ordered to respond firmly to betrayals from within. The Ambazonian State Army has been directed to address threats from within Ambazonian ranks, particularly amongst traditional leaders accused of undermining the cause. The ANSC reminded Ambazonians that leaders like Fon Richard, who dine with the enemy while ignoring the suffering and the plights of his own people, cannot be trusted. The council also warned against gatherings such as the one planned in Fako County for December 13th to 14th. That is tomorrow, next tomorrow, where traditional rulers aligned with La Republique are expected to meet, which an ASA spokesperson reinforced the warning to collaborators. Now, this latest controversy highlights the challenges facing Ambazonia in its fight for sovereignty. For many Ambazonians, leaders like Fon Richard, who symbolize the internal betrayal that complicates their struggle for liberation, hearing a Fon call for the death of his own people over the colonial aggressors. Well, as the revolution presses forward, the ANSC's firm response underscores its commitment to safeguarding Ambazonia's integrity against both external aggression and internal dissent. Now, over to you, Barrister Mbela. Let's bring something to mind. We've heard even President Sako talk about when it comes to a ceasefire or surrender. The war in Ambazonia, as we know, didn't start by Ambazonians. It started as a bid for Ambazonians to defend themselves. So hearing over and over again these Ambazonians who are not acting for Ambazonia call for the surrender of the Ambazonian State Army who keeps protecting Ambazonians and their territory, it is quite ridiculous and it's quite hypocritical to pretend like that is the way for peace, knowing fully well that the aggressor hasn't yet dropped the weapon, and time again, you see different surrogates of La Republique in Ambazonia call on the Ambazonian State Army to surrender. What would you describe this as? Because as far as we know, it is not ignorance. They know the truth. They know how the war started. What would you call such calls by a so-called Fon? What would you describe it as?
I think the cause can be summarized as the greatest point of treachery. They are traitors. That's the traitor form. Before I get to that final description, look at who is this guy? Who is this form? I hear it's called the form of Bamessing or something. It's from Bamessing. Bamessing is, I'm sure, part of Ngoku Tunja. But he's not alone. I don't know what he does. If you look through, he might either be benefiting from the CPDM as of now, a senator, a regional delegate guy, or an MP. So it's the pocket, the finances that go into his pockets that he's looking for. He's not new. I remember saying here, in the 1990s, there was another fund of Balikumbat. Just next, I think they are neighbors to Bamessing. The fund of Balikumbat, Fondo, was a member of the House of Assembly. The SDF had just been formed and was going high. Fondo of Balikumbat vowed that the CPDM, the SDF would not come to that place because he wanted to preserve his position as an MP of the CPDM. And he went extra miles to kill the SDF coordinator in Balikumbat for their challenging him. What happened to the founder of Balikumbat? He ended up in jail, was tried and sentenced to prison. He was released and he died. What's the difference between the founder of Fondo of Balikumbat and the founder of Bamessing? I said they are neighbors. I've been to Balikumbat. Two villages are neighbors. So this guy is just looking for money. He's a surrogate of the CPDM. And you can guarantee you that his call will go nowhere. Who are the ASA fighters in Ngokutunja? They are sons and daughters of the people of Ngokutunja. They are sons and daughters of the people of Bamessing. So this one believes in his mind that a certain parent, a father, a mother will go and catch his son and hand him over to the farm. They won't give it to the DDR. It's not going to happen. That's the strength of our ASAs. Their strength lies in the fact that they are with the population. The fund has an interest. They get money. He doesn't have an interest to defend the population. He doesn't have the interest to defend Ambazonia, for which Bamessing is part of it. And so he has a selfish interest. And why does he even do that? He could have said what he said last week in his country talk and left. But he has to put it now in English, put it there in writing, so that I can show you one day his masters. I've done it. Give my pay, give my reward. We may come in cash, we may come in some promotion, some nomination. They don't do those things for nothing. It's not behaving differently from Capudan yet. So you are the ones evidence that you are doing the job for you to merit the next position that is out there for you. So it's not going to go anywhere. We thank our ASAs for standing up to this guy. I'm sure if you give him the opportunity, his days are numbered. His days are numbered. The war for Ambazonia is a war of the people. Who are the people? They are the fathers and the mothers. They are not you and me. They support you and me. They support the children. And I can guarantee you, using the DDR, the few who have opted to go there, I don't see any parent in his right senses who has going to hand his son or daughter to the DDR. Nobody has done that. So this man is doing a job for somebody that he requires pay. Why do you need to write that down? He don't need to go to the Bamessing Market Square and play a drum, and people come and he talks to them. Why is he writing it down for? He wants evidence to show you, I wanted that, look, I've done the job. And so he's not doing anything for the people. He's doing everything for you. And I say, his days are numbered. He will end up, I can guarantee you, he will end up of Alikumba, his neighbor. I see from his pictures an old man. You know the story of Ando of Alikumba, who at the time was even just a CPD, and the man wanted to die for a CPD. In return for being a parliamentary, and he died. He went to jail and came out and died. And so that's it. Those are renegade chiefs. They have no meaning. A rare fund anywhere in Amazonia or chief talking to his people. We gather them and talk to them in the country talk. You know, write a circular on some headed paper for what? How many times does he write a circular to get his school funds to come and settle policy issues? And so you can see from the start that it is all orchestrated. It will not go anywhere. Our ASA people will stand up to that nonsense. And again, that guy's days are numbered. Over to you.
Well, Barton Basia, well, why we see that the colonial surrogates, sadly of Ambazonian origin, have decided to ignore the main problem, the cause of the ongoing war in Ambazonia, why they try to ignore the main root of this ongoing war, we see that continuous insecurity grows amid the ongoing war in Ambazonia. Now, we get reports that the Vice Chancellor of the University of Bamenda has announced that the 2024 convocation ceremony of the university shall now be held on Friday, December 13th, 2024, at the Esplanade of the Central Administration, starting at 9 a.m. prompt. Now, the update was made public in a radio announcement signed by the Vice Chancellor, Professor Teresa Unko Akenji. The convocation ceremony was planned previously for Saturday, December 14th, which is this Saturday, but then it has been rescheduled for tomorrow, December 13th, on Friday. And the rescheduling rather is to avoid the day of Saturday, which appears to be uncertain following what happened last Saturday, December 7th, where denizens of Bamenda started a day as any other normal day, only to be shocked a moment later by sporadic gunshots all over the town that sent everyone running for safety and the eventual closing down of the town. So what happened last Saturday that ended with the loss of lives and what people went through to get to their homes, coupled with the rumor that the coming Saturdays would be ghosted. No one is willing to relive last week's experience. Likewise, the University of Bamenda. Now, it is therefore evident that it is for security reasons that the 2024 convocation ceremony of the University of Bamenda is rescheduled a day earlier than the previous day. Now, this announcement, of course, we got it from the VC, where he states that the event for tomorrow is restricted to graduating students and staff of the University of Bamenda and therefore not open to the public or due to security reasons. Bryson Basie, I would like you to talk briefly on the security situation. What is your take on it? What do you think the people of especially Bamenda, which seems to be a hotspot since the ongoing war? What your advice to them would be?
Well, the important thing is, we've said this before, the generalized insecurity in the town of Bamenda, where the university finds it. As we have said, there's nothing to celebrate them. Then we go down and ask the question, what is a graduation ceremony? A graduation ceremony is an open ceremony for you to show the world that you have achieved something. What does it mean if that ceremony is restricted to yourselves? You want to show me a fellow student that you have graduated? That's not meaning. Your graduation from the university, successful graduation, is not dependent upon the public ceremony. In most universities, especially in the United States, the graduates don't even attend that thing. You have passed the exam, mail your certificate to you, come in there to parade in the stadium or in the stage and get photos taken. It's not what is important. If you merit the degree, you have passed the test, you already qualify, you will give you a degree already. And so getting students to take the risk of coming to sit there by themselves to the exclusion of their parents and their friends and calling it a graduation is a tip of the iceberg. It's nonsense. If there's insecurity in town, which it is, why must you organize a graduation ceremony? Why? Again, I think it goes down to the university authorities. Trying to show your own day, attest to your are normal. We just graduated here. You send audios to prove to your own day that I'm the University of Bamenda, which is irrelevant. If truly somebody had earned a degree there, but now the person knows, you know that you have a degree in this or that. It's the right to you. With your scores, you already have the degree. And so again, the question is, what is a graduation worth if you must come into that hall, honor yourselves, without your parents, without your friends, without anybody? You graduate among yourselves. What are you doing with that? Those boys there, they know themselves. They know their girlfriends who are in the campus. The girls know the boys. So what must that graduation mean there? They already know that they passed for this one passed. So why do you need this graduation for other than a show publicly? And of course, shamelessly pretending that things are normal, but shifting the dates because in conflict with ghost towns. They don't want to be in conflict with the Ambazonian fighters. And so it is all nonsense. We know that the chancellor is an appointee of the president. He does that just like he's fond of Bamessing, or he loses his job. And so that's what it is. The storytelling, we've said it many times here, it's just a stark reminder that in Bam or there's generalized in the defiance of the Archbishop of Bamenda, was spoken before, in defiance of the French ambassador in Yaoundé who came there himself with his 2 legs and spoke, in defiance of the city mayor, the regional council, whoever they call them there is no security in Bamenda. Why is there no security? Ambazonian struggle. Until you bring an end to the Ambazonian struggle, can you think of peace? Can you think of normal graduations? Because this guy is graduating there. 90% of them are Ambazonians. Where are they going to? They have thousands last year, thousands the year before last. Where have they gone to with those degrees? It's a stark reminder this battle is to be fought and to be fought and fought until we win. Over to you.
Saturday that caused such, fear and tension amongst the University of Bamenda councillors. Let's take a look.
Jesus. You know, say, when I don't run. And I got up to the north. Jesus! Jesus! Go. Enter.
This is just from one angle, a random video from social media talking about the events of Saturday. And you can imagine the insecurity, tension, and fear that was in the heart and eyes of everybody who was present in that particular unpredicted ordeal. Anyways, moving on to one of the most important and critical topics for today, we cannot help but continue to notice the hypocrisy of a lot of people from Ambazonian descent who choose to side with the colonial administration, then their own people, and join in the fight for liberation. Well, we see that the colonial proxies of Southern Cameroon's origin, including Mbela Moki, Ngole, and Agbobala, and more likes like them, who have revealed themselves as complicit actors in the political theater staged by the colonial regime of French Cameroon, La République. Now we see that these individuals who have chosen to align themselves with the colonial regime continue to act in despicable ways that undermine the ongoing struggle. They have chosen to align with an oppressive system, have become symbols of betrayal, begging for scrapes from their own stolen resources while undermining the legitimate fight for the total liberation of Ambazonia. Now we see a pitiful spectacle in Parliament with Mbela Moki, a colonial senator who recently displayed the depth of his servitude in La République's parliament, lamenting the lack of roads to Ekondo TT and other neglected Ambazonian areas. Let's take a listen.
Thank you, Mr. President, for giving me this opportunity to take the rostrum once again. And in that way, permit me, Mr. President, offer a gracious salute to members of government who are present with us here tonight. My concern and focus is tied to a primary school story. For those of us English-speaking Cameroonians who are here, if you enter the class to make a story, you say, boys and girls, are you ready to hear my story? They will say, yes, what is your story about? My story is about roads. And if the Southwesterner wants to talk in this country, the first outcry is roads. Mr. Minister of Public Works, I want you, with all due respect, to understand the cries that are coming from this house tonight. They are reflections, a perfect reflection of the cries of the average Cameroonian. The question most Cameroonians have for you is that our ministers who are charged with the duty of taking care of the road network in our country, do they circulate in this country by air or by road? How can it be that the economic capital is not properly connected to the national capital of our country? What image are we giving to the world? Mr. Minister, a few days ago you came around with some explanations after the Delegate General for National Security spoke out about the road network in the country. Yes, Mr. Minister, as I said, with all due respect, have you ever lost a relation because of bad roads, Mr. Minister? When the head of state visited Buea and people put their complaints to him, he made a statement I will never forget. As a YCPD militant, the head of state said the crown cannot be happy when the cottage is not happy. Mr. Minister, everyday Cameroonians are dying because of bad roads. How? For how long are we going to cry as a people? For how long are Cameroonians going to shout out? We have elections next year. What do you want us? Look, we are leaving this place, for those of us who live in the communities, we are not safe because people will say we have gone and voted what? People will ask those questions. We don't have answers, no matter what CRTV is trying to portray now. Areas I come from the Southwest. We have 6 divisions. How many of those divisions are adequately linked to the regional headquarters. The regional headquarters itself is not linked to the economic capital, which is the way out. Now, we condemn English-speaking Cameroonians for being terrorists. Let me reveal this to all of you, the government bench. You are giving a lot of work to our gallant military boys. If you want to condemn the people of Lebialem and say they subscribe to Ambazonia tendencies, it is simple. The bottom line is underdevelopment. There are no roads. The minister mentioned Ekondo Titi Kumba here when he last came here. There is no road to Ekondo Titi, sir. Even a motorbike cannot go to Ekondo Titi. Let us be frank. We cannot be pretending here. We should call a spade a spade. People have resorted to going by sea to Indian division. Mr. President, I understand you, but give me some time to cry to you. Translate the cry of Cameroonians to you. This is what I'm saying. It is appalling. It is bad. The situation is bad. Other speakers have mentioned areas I don't want to mention. But look at, you cannot travel from economic capital to the national capital. You cannot travel to Kribi, which is to sell Cameroon the future of our nation. Mr. Minister, we saw you signing a document saying that there will be a road from Bikoko to West Coast Idi now. The people of the west, of the southwest, are used to what you are trying to do. A contract was signed to plant a bitumen plant in Limbe. Till date, it is not there. A cement factory, it is not there. The Limbe seaport, all, Tico airport, is this, tell us, is this another deception? Mr. President, no, let us end this.
Very pathetic sight you see there. In as much as he might look like he's trying to do something for the people of Ambazonia, it is rather very clear already what the intentions of this colonial regime really is for Ambazonia, and certainly infrastructure is not part of it. We see that the Mbela Moki, the pitiful sight, as he pitifully stated rather, that the people of Lebialem are subscribing rather to Ambazonia because of underdevelopment. Is that really the issue? As though poor roads are the root cause of the Ambazonia struggle. Poor roads are the major thing that the entire Ambazonia is fighting for. Well, this pathetic narrative ignores the truth which French La République's systemic exploitation and invasion of Ambazonia are the actual causes of underdevelopment and unrest. So it certainly cannot just be poor road being the root cause of the Ambazonia struggle. To clarify that on behalf of Ambazonians, the narrative ignores the truth, which is French Cameroon's systemic exploitation and invasion of Ambazonia being the actual causes of underdevelopment and unrest. Well, instead of addressing the core issue, the illegitimate occupation of Ambazonian territory, Mbela Moki and his ill forces focus on trivial grievances in a desperate attempt to maintain relevance in a regime that neither respects nor listens to him. You can already see the expression of the entire population while he talked. Well, we see that Moki's role, alongside others like Ngole and Agbabala, amongst others, is not to champion the Ambazonian cause, but to maintain the illusion of representation within a colonial framework. We see that these individuals willingly participate in a system that has been designed to suppress the rights and freedoms of Ambazonians, choosing personal gains over the collective liberation of their own people. The action of these people are not merely misguided, but actively complicit in the suffering of the Ambazonian population. From bad roads to economic hardship, every single aspect of Ambazonia's neglect stems from the exploitative grip of French Cameroon, which prioritizes sources, resource extraction over development. We say that Mbela Moki's career is riddled with self-serving decisions and betrayals, from backstabbing allies to manipulate his way into political power to allegations of academic dishonesty at the University of Buea. His record is a testament to his loyalty not to Ambazonians, but to his colonial masters. His sudden awareness of infrastructure challenges in Ekondo Titi and Tombel reeks of hypocrisy, given his decade-long complicity in these very same issues. The problem is not merely bad roads or economic stagnation. These are only symptoms of the larger crisis, the continued occupation and exploitation of Ambazonia by La Republique. While genuine Ambazonian leaders fight for total freedom, individuals like Moki cry in the Colonial House of Assembly, seeking crumbs instead of justice. It is high time for Ambazonians to recognize the roles played by these colonial surrogates in perpetuating their suffering. The likes of Mbela Moki, Ngole, and Abobala must be held accountable for their betrayal of a legitimate cause. Their action serves only to strengthen the grip of the oppressor while offering nothing to the people that they claim to represent. Well, history will remember their voices not as leaders, but as pawns in a corrupt system that sought to crush the Ambazonian dream. As Ambazonians continue their fight for total freedom, they must also expose and reject the hypocrisy of those who have chosen servitude over liberation. Barrister Tim, I'm sure even prior to this time you had seen that video that has gone viral, and it's quite alarming. It is interesting. It is a lot of things in one. Would like you to just air your thoughts and what you think about the whole charade in the parliament there.
There's so much that one can talk about Mbela Moki is doing, what he did. That thing has gone viral. And you know I'm from the BLM. On the BLM different groups, I've seen people almost dancing, popping beers, whiskeys. Why? Because Mbela Moki at least mentioned their name. He mentioned the BLM. And for them, that was a cause to celebrate. And so who is Mbela Moki? You have used the word there, faking an illusion of representation. If you follow the clip very, very well, they will not even let him talk. They were about to stop him. They were begging for time to continue to talk. Does it remind us of what Weber did? Weber was also a representative from Buea in the House of Assembly. They will not let him talk. I told them I will talk right to the end. Just talking. So these are people operating under the illusion of representation. When did Mbela Moki make all these statements? He was making the statements 2-3 days ago at the close of the annual assembly, the meeting in Yaoundé. What was the meeting for? The budget for 2025. And so you find out what Mbela Moki is doing. He asked, to who is Mbela Moki complaining? To whom is he talking? He's begging the administration. Telling them the roads are not there. Not to Kondotiti, not to Idi now. Then they promised to put a cement factory, whatever thing they wanted. And Butiman factory, which probably had promised was in Buea then, in the early 1990s. I heard him say it. But the important thing is, who is Mbela Moki? Mbela Moki is a senator. In other words, Mbela Moki is a lawmaker. At the end of the session, what do we expect to get from Mbela Moki? We're expecting anybody is expecting Mbela Moki or any other man taking representation here only to be telling the people that he represents what is in the budget that he or she voted for next year for the people. I would have expected Mbela Moki to be telling the people, well, this is the end of the session, we just voted about a budget, we provided so many millions or so many billions for the road to Ekondi Titi. We have provided so much for the road to the BLM or whatever thing they mean. Because that's the essence of representation. He didn't do it. There's nothing in the budget. He has just finished voting the budget. There's nothing in the budget for Ekondi Titi, not for his native Fako, not for his so-called economic capital. And then he comes and he's crying to who? He's crying to you and me. What is his account? What is his representative account? What has he done? What has he, in fact, what has he voted into the budget? That would take a road to Kundo Titi. That would take a road to Lebiela. That would take a road to the West Coast. Because he's dealing with roads. He doesn't give this account. He calls people to come and sit there, ministers, to see him talk, like Wilbur. And they go out clapping for a representative. What did he represent? He voted the budget. What's in the budget to solve the problem that he has mentioned? It is actually pure, if you knew what representation meant in the Southern Cameroon in the 1950s, parliamentarians did not just talk. They voted budget, specific budget. In the Parliament of 1959, 1960, 1961, a parliamentarian will come out and tell you where in this budget were provided for a school in Santa, so many millions, were provided for a road going to Mbengui, so many millions. He knows this. That's the work of a representative. Now he is crying, like you and me, and expecting the solution to come from where? We should have been going to cry to him and his colleagues. As you go to Parliament, know that we don't have a road, make sure there's a budget in the budget, there's the money in the budget to construct a road or to construct a school, whatever thing we like. But he's not doing it. He's coming to he has finished, he's going back home with a salary of 2 million every month or something around that, and complaining to nobody. What makes him think that those people he's talking to there, there are people who were there last year, there are people who have been there for 40 years, there are people who have been stealing the oil from there. There are people who promised in 1990 that they were going to put a bitumen factory in Limbe. They are the very people, the same minister is sitting there. They are the very people who promised to build a cement factory that he's complaining about. They are still sitting there. They have not changed for the past 30, 40 years. What makes him think that they will change? At least he's a smart guy. He thinks that he can make that and gain some sympathy. That is why if you go on Facebook, his name is all over now. For doing what? For talking. Just for talking. Because talking about your grievances is even forbidden. You're not allowed to talk about them. That's why even before the very senator is standing right there, he's begging them, let me finish. Papa, just let me finish. Otherwise, they will shut you down. And so this is what we have come to. Illusion of representation. You represent nobody because he solves no problem, he proposes no solution. He, like the 10 others from his region, called Southwest, like the 10 others from the Northwest or from the North, they represent nobody. Like the 15 MPs from the Southwest. No, like the 15 MPs from the Southwest. Like the 20 from the Northwest, they call them. What do they represent? That they are still crying. We're talking about insecurity, bad roads, no schools. What do these people represent? They're representing who? And so until they get out of the mindset, until they were able to go and read, I'm sure Mbela Moki does not understand. Until, because he was young, until you understand how the parliamentary system worked in Ambazonia, which we were trying to restore, that an MP will represent people, he will represent their interests, life, financially and otherwise. Until he understands this, he will not know what is going on. They represent nobody. They cannot propose anything to change their lifestyle. They cannot propose anything to improve anything. And of course, you find my poor Mbela Moki, I feel sorry for him. I've said this, people didn't like to hear with me. Mbela Moki is a senator. The senators represent their region, 10 for each region. They are regional representative. They are not divisional. They are not subdivisional. They represent the region. One would have expected Mbela Moki, just like any other senator, to be highlighting the difficulties of his region. How does that concern him with Douala or the economic capital? They have their own 10 senators. So it's a misrepresentation of representation. I don't know how we'll get to educate them on this. They are paid a salary. They meet 3 times a year, 90 days in 366 days. And they're sitting in their home doing nothing. They go to Yaoundé, they have been there for 30 days, doing nothing. They brought a budget to them for 10 days last to put their signature there. He doesn't even know the budget. He knows nothing. And so it is faking representation. It is being paid by the colonial master, in fact, faking to belong. And we shall not belong. We don't belong. We don't intend to belong to that charade. In a true Ambazonia, if Mbela Moki finds himself in parliament, he will be held accountable. Project-wise, one project after the other is going to be held accountable for what the people want, what has not been done. And if he doesn't account for it, he will be voted out. He will be voted out. That's the system we're fighting to restore. Simple as that. Okay. We must spoke like that. Well, see, the issue of bench warrant for him. For daring to speak, not for doing anything wrong, for daring to speak. The issue of bench warrant for him. And where he sits today is abroad, on exile. So poor Mbela Moki, if we have not learned the legislative rights of a parliamentarian, a senator, get the books and read. You're not there to complain to the government. You are there, you are lawmakers. You have to make laws and impose on government to implement. You are lawmakers. You are no lawburgers. That's all what it is. Mbela Moki, like other people in parliament, in the Southwest, 15 of them, in the Northwest, 20. And in Norway has 20 parliamentarians, they have 10 senators, that's 30. The Southwest has 15 parliamentarians, 10 senators, that's 25. You have to represent the people. Until you get independence, you have to get what is ours. Mbela Moki is not questioning where the money from Sonora went to. He doesn't question that. You know the money came from Sonora. Where does Sonora get the money from Indian? Mbela Moki does not know what happened to the money that he cannot construct a road to Bamenda, to Kondo Titi, and by extension to Dian. Mbela Moki will not even dare about any of them. Not Mbela Moki alone. They ask before the floor of assembly, where is the deal of Idabato? Where is he? That's part of the Southwest. Where is the deal? I mentioned the BLM people are clapping. Of the 10 senators in the Southwest, of the 10 senators, the BLM has 2. Sitting here, there are senators. He has 2 of the 10. What's their record of representation? Their record is coming around giving people beer. The BLM, which is one of the smallest divisions in the Southwest, they are able to provide up to 2 senators. And yet, there's no development there. There's no road. There's absolutely nothing. And so poor Mbela Moki and their colleagues will feel your pain, because as long as there's no road there, your car does not drive on a good road anyway. As long as I know you could walk to West Coast, the road was designed to construct, they are not constructed. You would have been benefiting it from it because you're in Buea. That's Fako. He talked of a butament factory to tar the roads. Butament is tar. You would have been using your car on those good roads. But it is not done. Who is to blame? You, Mbela Moki, you are to blame. Because you're supposed to vote the laws. You are the one who voted the budget. What do you not ensure that those things were in the budget? Zero representation, zero accountability. We're not there for you. We'll fight until we establish what we want. Over to you.
It's always interesting, Barrister Mbela, when you come from that legal perspective, because it shows a lot that has been lacking when it comes to these colonial surrogates. But then, away from the ongoing happenings with the colonial parliament, we're seeing something interesting. We're supposed to let you go at this point, but something interesting we found on the social media that has caught our attention slightly. We see a message from a certain Uncle Vince, tactical to practical. He says the recent ICC case that is making waves now was filed by Dr. David Masanga. He's talking about the ICC case we brought up in the news on Saturday last week and even on Monday. He says the recent ICC case that is making waves now was filed by Dr. David Masanga, a Ugandan civil rights activist and founder of the Pan-African Forum, with material support from Mimi Mefo, who is a survivor of Paul Biya's genocidal regime. All the noise from would-be Ambazonian leaders and lawyers is just noise. If you have documented proof of corn pastor Sako hairdressers filing a lawsuit at the ICC, please post it here. So he says, if you have a document proof of Dr. Sacco filing a lawsuit at the ICC, please post it here. Thanks. And this is coming from a certain Uncle Vince, tactical to practical. Well, the honest truth is, I don't think I even want to ask you the question, is it true that that document was filed by the Ambazonian government through the legal minds like you and Barrister Fu? I don't think that is the question I want to ask, because, I mean, from the file, we even saw your name as the recipient whom the ICC was addressing that to. So it's not even a question. It's rather ironic that it's hilarious. Somebody would say it is just fronting when your name's boldly and clearly written there, John Unso Fru and Mbasia at yahoo.com. So it's rather ironic to have someone say that. The question now to you is, it's a good thing that he brought this yet again to our view. We want to ask you to further tell us, what was it like? What inspired, we could guess what inspired that, but from your perspective, what inspired you to, sending this to the ICC, and how optimistic were you that they would receive and read and even further reply with a possible investigation into the ongoing atrocities committed by the La Republique regime? We just want you to tell us what the whole experience was like before sending and all of that. Just give us some insight into that.
Well, it's a very challenging experience. You find that document was end of 2020. But before 2020, a lot of other petitions have been sent to the ICC that were aware of what documents are values. They were simply letters written to the ICC, all of them directing the ICC, asking the ICC to intervene. In Ambazonia, this was, remember, 1919 was the peak, and no action was taken. I remember reading one from Professor Onyangwe and others. I remember reading one from Akere Mona. They were all addressed to the ICC. But these things did not go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere. I will try to find out why are these petitions not being followed up. But I had their number, I used to contact them. And the answer was clear, that Cameroon is not a signatory to the ICC. They have signed up to it, but they have not ratified the Rome Statute. And because they have not ratified the Rome Statute, you cannot file a direct petition against them. Because there are only three ways that you can petition the ICC. The first way is a member country, signatory to the Rome Statute, can talk to them directly. We are not a member state. Cameroon is not a member state, so that option is out of the road. The second option is when it is contacted, when there's a referral from the United Nations Security Council, they will act. A good example is, for example, what happened with Gaza and Israel. They had a referral from the Security Council, and they started to act. The third option is to contact directly the prosecutor of the ICC. That method is called the OTP, the Office of the Prosecutor. And so we found that was the only way we could get through. But to get the prosecutor to act, you must give evidence that's what we are talking about with a state party to the sea. We found that, we discovered that Nigeria had been an active participant in this war. Nigeria is a state party to the ICC. Nigeria is so collected. They are the ones who arrested our people from Ninara 10 and sent back to Cameroon for trial. They are the people who went to Taraba and other states and captured people there and sent them back. Some who have been killed. So they were active participants. They are active participants in the ongoing genocide. So in order to get our position received, we have to bring in Nigeria as a co-defendant. I mean the Nigerian government, because the services were involved in capturing people from Nara Hotel. The military were involved in capturing people from Taraba. So we have to bring in Nigeria as a participant in the war crimes against Ambazonia. That's how we feel I wrote it like that. It's not as simple as people think. It's 102 pages. It's a petition, 102 pages. Quite long, detailed enough. And so we worked on that thing. It was supposed to be 5 of us. I was supposed to be there. I was there. My sensor was supposed to be there. He was there. Mr. Ghana was supposed to be there. He was there. 2 others. Atem King Dennis, who was then in Addis Ababa. He was supposed to be there. He didn't show up. Buea nominated somebody to represent him. We never showed up for any of the sessions. So the 3 of us worked on that document for about 2 weeks, almost a month, and submitted it with those names under it. Coincidentally, by wonderful coincidence, we find Barrister Sansor's name there. We find my name there. But my name, in addition to my name, carries my email. I don't know why I put that email there, but I put that email there. And so when they got that thing, they had to reply to us electronically. The only person they could contact was me, because my email is on the application. And that's how they contacted me. They contacted us through me, because they sent the email to me. Find those emails that sent to me. That's how I became the contact person. And when they send that thing, you find there's a reference there. There's a reference number. And then there's a phone number that you can call, and you're supposed to be calling, and I've been calling them. You call them to find out what's going on. You call them, there's a process. You update the file. That was 2020. If something happened in 2021 after that, you update the file. There's a way to update. By sending the information, after we send this application, they kill, let me say, 20 people in Manfe on this date. We send pictures. We update the file each time. And I've been updating the file up to this point. So all this idea of Mr. Massacre, I don't know where you filed one, but if you filed one, which is just 2 weeks ago, I'd be surprised if it took that short a time for them to be acting on it. And to the best of my knowledge, all the information we'll have about Mr. whoever you call that guy, is the speech he gave somewhere, which was captured by Mimi Mifo. I've gone to Mimi Mifo website. I've not seen any other evidence of filing by that group. If the file is so big, but there must be evidence to show that it filed. In fact, the last I contacted them about 6 months, 8 months ago, they told me that this file was under process, that they were looking for resources. And I'm sure they are acting on it now after Ukraine, after Gaza. They have found some resources. Should we say, do praise ourselves for doing that? Of course we should. Do we condemn Mr. Massacre for doing what he did? If he did, it's so be it. If we have 20 petitions at the ICC, so be it. But this is evidence of what we did. You can see the document there. You can see it is on the head of the ICC. That you acknowledge something. So it cannot be a fabrication. For fabrication, so be it. Some people before now came to me, if I listen like this, can we follow you? I say, well, that's the phone number. This is a reference. But if you call the phone number, the first thing they'll ask you is the reference. You give the reference. The second thing they will do is they authenticate. Who are you? In my instant case, I call my name to look at, that's the guy who filed the thing. If you call it, I've told them, if you call it and you don't have this information, nobody will attend to you. Because investigations are secret. They don't go and announce in the radio, we're investigating you. They want to know the person to whom they are giving the information. So I told a few people who thought that they could just follow. I said, okay, that is a letter. I'll give you a letter. That's a reference there. That's a phone number. Call them, but they will not attend to you because you know they authenticate. They will ask your name. And you give the name, you look. As per that file, only me, I can update. Mbela Sanso, because his name is there. It is only 2 of us that get information. It was not by design, it was just coincidental. But it came to me specifically because by that coincidence, I put my name there and I included an email address, which is why it wrote to me, knowing that if it got to me, it would have gotten to the people before. That's the bottom line about that. We need more information about where the Mimi for is just a journalist.
Yeah,
It's time to promote our
website.
website.
Speaking of this particular person who said the Ambazonian government are fronting that they're the ones who actually filed the petition when it is clearly and boldly written that the reply from the ICC was directed to you. The question I want to ask is, or better yet, what is something you'd like to say to them? Since you've already cleared the air, we've heard the process, how it all went, and what inspired it and all that. What is one thing you want to say to people like them who are just naysayers and would rather want to fault the struggle instead of, help the struggle?
The other thing they should know is that what that petition that we filed and whatever action we're taking is not for our personal benefit. It doesn't benefit me in any form or shape. It does not benefit President Sako, neither does it benefit Mr. So or any of us talking here. It is our responsibility to bring the people who brought this mayhem on our people to book. And we'll fight that thing, I'll fight it until I die. They have to be answerable for what they've done to us. I gain nothing. I live in the United States. I gain nothing out of it, personally. But again, making sure that those criminals are held accountable. And I will hit my chest. Because the ICC, interestingly, does not go down and look for common people. It deals with the commanders, the ministers. So if at the end of the day I can hold only one general accountable, not the guys who are the bee hanging there in Bamenda and sleeping over in the guardian. No. They're looking for those who gave them the orders. The Ngaributin, for example, they will look for who gave the orders. They're not going to be looking for those three and then one and shot those guys. No. They were taking orders. So if we can hold only one of them accountable, we would have been happy that at least these people have to answer for what they've done to us. And so that's all the news about it. If anybody doubts it, the files are not closed. Open another one if it's okay. Our goal is to bring these people to book. If I can bring 10 to book, or we can bring 10 to book, and the critic there can bring 5, another one brings 3, that would have been a total of 20. That would make it better. Criticism without contribution is 0. We don't make a lot of noise. If not, they come here to be making all the stories. We'll find those things. We'll take time. I say it's 102 pages long. And so it costs us some money. We'll send them to them by FedEx and other registered mails. We paid for that. But the money is not important. The important thing is that finally they got it. Finally they acknowledge that they have it. Finally they gave us a number you can call and follow up from here. And because war crimes and genocide are indistinguishable, they last forever until you die. If they don't hold you today, they'll hold you tomorrow. So even if we die today, we'll rest assured that those who survive will be able to prosecute that case to the end. That's the only information we have for them. Criticize if you want, but I had earlier said in one of the segments about a year or two ago, that if you have more information, give us. He was not kidding, because if you gave me the information and it's not yet in the file, I know how to update the file. I have a number, I have a system where we can update that file. I will say, okay, we updated this file, we missed this point. We missed, for example, the day of a battle, for example. There's evidence about that. We missed the Manfei hospital, that came after. If you give it the information on the specification that we want, we will update that file. So nobody is excluded. If you feel the pain, let us jointly prosecute this matter. But don't claim ownership. Don't claim leadership not have. Claim participation by cooperating with those who have done something at least good. Over to you.
Thank you, Barrister Mbela. You couldn't have said that and put those words any wiser than you already did. It is always a delight to have you here on Undaunted. And to that person, I think the name is Uncle Vince, tactical to practical. We want to believe for the benefit of that you only posted that and had that question only as a concern, or you wanted to clarify some misinformation and debunk some disinformation. So with that, I believe you took one thing, if not, two or more from Barrister Mbela, where he says criticism without contribution is sin. But then I guess that has also been fully and duly clarified. Without Barrister Mbesi, I want to say thank you for joining us yet again on Undaunted. It's been a pleasure, it's been a delight to have you here on Undaunted.
Thank you for having me, and good night to you.
All right, we're heading now to news across Africa. Well, on the African scene, we see Ethiopia and Somalia have reached a pivotal agreement to hold technical talks mediated by Turkey, aimed at resolving a heated dispute over Ethiopia's memorandum of understanding with Somaliland. And this deal, signed in January 2023, proposed Ethiopia leasing Somaliland's coastal land to establish a marine force base in exchange for recognizing Somaliland's independence. Now, this move, however, clashed with Somalia's claim over Somaliland and its sovereignty, escalating tensions in the Horn of Africa. Under Turkey's mediation, Somali President Hassan Sheikh Mohamud and Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed convened in Ankara to chart a path forward. They agreed to initiate talks by February 2025, focusing on Somalia's territorial integrity while addressing Ethiopia's aspirations for sea access. The sides pledged to work towards commercial arrangements ensuring Ethiopia's reliable and secure maritime access under Somalia's sovereignty. Now, Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan emphasized the need for peace and collaboration. By overcoming resentments, we have laid the groundwork for a future built on cooperation, he remarked. Ethiopian Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed expressed hope for mutual benefits, reinforcing Ethiopia's peaceful intent behind its maritime aspirations. We see the complex dynamics of Somaliland and strategic importance. Somaliland, which declared independence over 30 years ago, remained unrecognized by the international community. Its relatively stable governance contrasts with Somalia's challenges, including al-Shabaab's militant threat, Somaliland's November 2023 presidential election, further bolstered its quest for global recognition. Now, despite opposition within Somaliland to the Ethiopian deal, the region's political strides highlight its unique standing. Ethiopia, Africa's most populous landlocked nation, views maritime access as critical to its economic and security goals. Meanwhile, Somalia and Ethiopia are central to stabilizing the volatile Horn of Africa. Both nations face challenges from internal instability to external threats, underscoring the necessity of a cooperative resolution. Now, the upcoming talks, if successful, could redefine regional cooperations in the Horn of Africa, balancing Ethiopia's maritime ambitions with Somalia's territorial claims offers an opportunity to foster peace and shared prosperity, particularly in a region where collaboration often succumbs to conflict. Well, away from East Africa, we take a look at the rising militancy in Niger, a country that has been under siege. Deadly attacks in border villages. Niger's military confirmed that 10 soldiers were killed and 7 injured in a terrorist assault near its border in Burkina Faso. The attack, which occurred in Petelkole, involved hundreds of militants on motorcycles targeting a military position. Nigerian forces retaliated, neutralizing 26 attackers. However, social media reports that another assault in Châteaumain were dismissed by Niger's junta as unfounded. Worsening security landscape since the military coup in July 2023 ousted President Mohamed Bazoum, we've seen Niger facing escalating violence from armed groups linked to Al-Qaeda and Daesh. Over 1,500 civilians and soldiers have been killed in militant attacks this year, more than double the fatalities recorded in 2022. Now, the army accuses adversaries of spreading misinformation to demoralize troops amid ongoing instability. However, the junta faces mounting criticism for failing to address the violence effectively while consolidating power in a nation already grappling with widespread insecurity. You see that on the humanitarian implication and regional implication, the militant insurgency along the Niger-Burkina Faso border reflects broader regional instability in the Sahel. The area has become a hotspot for extremist violence, exacerbated by political turmoil and limited state presence. Communities in border regions face severe humanitarian crises as violence disrupts livelihood and displaces thousands. The latest attacks underscore Niger's precarious position as it battles a surge in militant violence post-coup. Stabilizing the region requires robust military strategies, international support, and an inclusive approach to governance. Niger's struggle reflects the wider challenges of the Sahel, a region where instability threatens to spiral further without concerted efforts to restore order and build resilience. Well, with that, we'll head on to the news across the globe. On the foreign scene in the US, President Joe Biden has made history by issuing 39 presidential pardons and commuting the sentences of nearly 1,500 people in a single day. Now, this move is the most acts of presidential clemency issued in one day. The pardoned individuals were convicted of nonviolent crimes, with many having already served their sentences or completed their supervised release. Some notable cases include Jason Hernandez, who was convicted of nonviolent drug offenses as a juvenile, and Dr. Katrina Polk, who pleaded guilty to a nonviolent drug offense at 18 and has since earned a PhD in public policy and administration. Biden also commuted the sentences of 5 individuals, including Daquan Charles Davis, who was sentenced to 262 months in prison for conspiracy to distribute cocaine, and Margaret Ann Van Dyck, who was sentenced to 60 months in prison for conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute cracks cocaine. Now, this move has sparked a conversation about the use of presidential pardons and commutations. While some argue that it is a necessary tool for correcting injustices, others criticize the practice as being too often used to benefit those with connections to the president. Well, we see as well on the global scene that the United Nations General Assembly demands permanent ceasefire in Gaza. The United Nations General Assembly has made a significant move towards promoting peace in the Gaza Strip. With an overwhelming 158 votes in favor, the Assembly has called for an immediate, unconditional, and permanent ceasefire in the region. Now, this resolution is a crucial step towards ending the ongoing conflict and alleviating the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. The international community has come together to demand a ceasefire with only 9 votes against and 13 abstentions. While the resolution's approval demonstrates the global commitment to finding a peaceful solution to the conflict. It is a beacon of hope for the people of Gaza, who have been suffering for far too long. And it's worth noting that this development comes after the United Nations Security Council adopted the Resolutions 2735 of 2024, which proposes a comprehensive 3-phase ceasefire deal to end the war in Gaza. Now, on to Russia. We see that Russia has revealed a reserve amid the huge 2025 price predictions. Bitcoin's price has been on a wild ride, shooting up through 2024 and now hovering around $100,000 for the past week. As traders eagerly await the next big price move, let's take a look at what experts are predicting for Bitcoin's future. We see that the short-term predictions for the next 30 days, Bitcoin's price is expected to remain relatively stable, with potential highs and lows ranging from $101,000 to $105,049. In the long-term prediction, looking ahead to 2025, experts predict that Bitcoin's price could reach as high as $201,797 with a potential peak of $252,183 by 2030. Now, Bitcoin's price is expected to sustain around 2.7, to be precise, $2,755,660 with a high of $8,726,596 and a low of $660,000, 0.668. Now, it is worth noting that these predictions are based on historical trends and market analysis, but the cryptocurrency market is known for its volatility, so only time will tell what's in store for Bitcoin's price. And we've come to the end of Undaunted tonight with the news from across the globe. Coming up next will be the recap. Yes, on Undaunted tonight, we brought to you as Ambazonians face recurring fire incidents, with the most recent one claiming the life of a 1-year-old. We brought to you Atanga NG only concerned about colonial priorities, which include controlling Ambazonian institutions and organizations. We also brought to you the Bamessing fund sparking outrage for controversial DDR remarks, stirring up warnings from the Ambazonian National Security Council. And also in Bamenda, the 2024 graduation ceremony of the university in Bamenda was rescheduled due to security concerns. And Mbela Moki displaying the depth of his servitude in La Republique's parliament. On the African scene, we saw Ethiopia-Somalia dispute navigating tensions over Somaliland. And on the global report, Biden issues 39 presidential pardons and commutes 1,500 sentences. Well, that is all on Undaunted tonight, bringing into the news untold stories. On behalf of the entire Undaunted, we say thank you for joining in, and we'll leave you with ABC Amba TV images. Good night, and God bless you.